My name is Sharice Davids. I represent the Kansas 3rd Congressional District, and I appreciate all of you and your time and effort that went into your testimony. So one of the things that really struck me in listening to the entire panel is that we have a really interesting juxtaposition of things here. The airline industry, or the idea that it happens to be that the market pushes you toward efficiency in a way that benefits our concerns and addresses our concerns about climate change. And a lot of us have concerns about climate change in Kansas. In the Kansas City metro area, we have the Kansas City Climate Change Coalition. It includes elected officials, people from various sectors, and even the Kansas City Transportation Authority has started they're looking to hopefully acquire electric buses. They're operating on hybrids right now. I think there are a lot of folks, especially in my area, where we have a lot of multimodal concerns. There's a lot of rail in the Kansas City metro area. There's a lot of air. There's a lot of highway. We have 5 highways that intersect. But one of the things that I've noticed is, Professor Lyon, I would love to hear you kind of talk about the idea of the market deciding. Sometimes the market does decide, but at what point do you draw the line around innovation? Because at some point the federal government did decide that passenger vehicles, rail, and car were going to be the thing that we would use. And now everything that I've heard addresses alternatives to the thing that we decided some number of years ago. It seems as though we're at a place right now where we need to be thinking in terms of not just the market dollar-wise, but also what does climate change do to the market? How are you thinking about innovation, but not just in terms of electric vehicles, innovation of the way that we're viewing the market?
Well, let me try to speak to that. Environmental economists normally think there are 2 big things we need to do regarding climate change. 1 is put a price on carbon, and 2 is fund, with government funds, early-stage innovation for research and development into technologies that will help reduce carbon emissions. So those are kind of the 2 big categories, and I think it's pretty widely recognized that government needs to help with that early-stage R&D investment. And that's driven spin-offs into all kinds of different sectors. I mean, the tech sector, for one. I think the question is, where do you stop that and hand things off to the market to actually do the deployment? And my worry is that government sometimes goes too far into the actual deployment process. So we want to have this kind of smooth, intelligent handoff from one to the other. I don't know if that addresses your question exactly.
I think I might follow up with a written question for you around that.
Sure.
So, Mr. Prohaska, can you talk a little bit more about the innovations around the way we're deploying electric vehicle, like the charging stations and that sort of thing? And you've talked a little bit already about the impact that subsidies can have. But can you talk a little bit about where the subsidies in other places might be hindering your ability to do this, or the way that we're viewing who's getting what subsidies? Because I feel like you've touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to hear a bit more.
Well, first, let me just mention, thank you for the question. I've been to the great city of Kansas City, and KCP&L.
A smart city.
Yes, a smart city. But in this case, Kansas City Power and Light is a great example of the idea of how you can connect innovation with changes in infrastructure. And in a lot of ways, Kansas City is helping build the 21st century solution to how city infrastructure and then I think long-term infrastructure needs to develop around the country. And a great example of that is charging infrastructure. We just think of it as a place to charge our cars, but it also can be a great way to help the grid actually respond to demand and peak demand. And so they're installing smart chargers and also connecting it to information. So when people charge, you can actually connect the information around the community.
Thank you for that. And I am glad, because I was going to have to do it, that you mentioned KCP&L, now Evergy, and their work toward providing electric vehicle chargers. With that, I'll yield back. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.